Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So today in this presentation we will walk you through our poster titled A Sociolinguistic Analysis of Syed Saddiq Speeches Exploring Language in Different Contexts. Before we start, let's get to know the figure that we will be focusing on, Syed Saddiq. Syed Saddiq bin Syed Abdul Rahman Al-Sagaf is a well-known figure in Malaysia. He is 33 years old and comes from Pulai, Johor. He has made a strong mark in the political scene by becoming the founder and first president of the Malaysian United Democratic Alliance Muda, leading the Undi 18 movement and becoming the youngest Minister of Youth and Sports in Malaysian history. Today he serves as the Member of Parliament for Muar, Johor. Through his bold leadership and outspoken personality, we will explore his speeches in both formal and informal settings, focusing on sociolinguistic aspects and ESG elements. Our analysis have three objectives. First is to analyze the use of language in the speeches through a sociolinguistic lens. Second, it is to identify and examining at least two key sociolinguistic concepts within the speeches. And lastly is to compare the sociolinguistic features found in both speeches by exploring how they reflect his communication style and its purposes.
There are two sociolinguistic concepts and two sociolinguistic elements listed in our poster. Let's look at sociolinguistic concepts. First is code mixing. This is the mixing of two or more languages in a single conversation or sentence. According to Woon and Ho, this usually happens to either fill a gap in vocabulary or to create emphasis. Second one is register. This refers to the level of formality in language. As Holmes 2017 explains, register depends on the context, relationships, and purpose. Now, let's move on for the sociolinguistic elements, which is accommodation theory. According to Holmes 2017, this theory explains how speakers adjust their speech style to either converge or diverge from their audience. And finally, speech act theory. According to Fatima 2024, this theory sees language as action, such as asserting facts, giving comments, or offering advice. For our data sources, we analyze two speeches. The first one is former parliamentary speech titled Batu Putih, Why Did the Cabinet Stay Quiet, published on YouTube. And the second one is an informative talk video addressed to SPM leaders where he shares advice and encouragement for them.
In this speech, we will explore how Syed Saddiq used two of the main sociolinguistic terms found in this speech, which is register and code mixing, in two different settings. So for the formal speech, Syed Saddiq used a formal register, or people also call it as a high register, where he used a more respectful language, formal Malay language, which is typical of formal political discourse. Why he used it? It is to match with the parliamentary setting where people are discussing about serious national matter. So the example that we found is, saya nak mulakan dahulu berkenaan soal collective responsibility that we found in the minutes 137. So in the informal speech, he used a more informal register, or we call it as low register, where he used a more of like conversational tone or casual tone. For example, he includes rapid fire rhetorical questions, which is dah dapat result SPM, kecewa, sedih, gembira, in the second three that we found in the speech, which is to attract the audience attention. For code mixing, we can see that it is used in low density informal speech, as we just found 5 instances in a 5 minutes and 46 second speech from YouTube videos. Why? It is because code mixing only used for precision in the Malay formal setting, which means that it is used only to mention or talk about a certain term that should be in English, like the term slippery slope that we found in this speech. Meanwhile, in informal speech, code mixing are used in a more high density, as we found 8 instances in a 1 minute and 29 second speech from TikTok videos. So why it is used more casually? It is because code mixing are used mainly for engagement, like in the speech. Syed Saddiq used it to mirror the used speech style, Like in the example, not jadi influencer as he asks the audience that come from the use casually in the TikTok post. Let's look at the linguistic variation and social factors based on the sociolinguistic terms we mentioned earlier, which is register and code mixing. First, what kind of register does Saddiq use in his formal speech? He uses high register or formal register like the term saya nak mulakan dahulu berkenaan. Why? Because the setting is a political discussion and the topic is a serious national issue. So formal language fit the context very well. So now, what about the informal speech? Here, he uses a low register with a lot of contraction like tak nak. This is because the setting is in the TikTok application, which is a social media application, and he is talking to SPM leaders, so the tone is more relaxed and relatable. Moving on to the code mixing, why does he still mix language in the formal speech? Even though it is formal, some terms like slippery slope are used because of global political influence. English terms are common to maintain clarity in political discussion. And in the informal speech, code mixing is used more frequently. Why? Because of the age gap between him and the youth. He mirrors youth culture where mixing Malay and English, or we also call it as Manglish, is normal and totally fine and usually used in everyday conversation. For example, he says, "Listen to your heart, adik-adik," which sounds friendly and connect with the younger listener better.
Thank you, Ansha. Before I start, let me introduce myself first. My name is Mirzulaika binti Mustafa. Now, let us explore the sociolinguistic elements in Saddiq's speeches. Our analysis highlight two key elements, accommodation theory and speech art theory, both of which are clearly reflected in his use of language. Starting with accommodation theory, that explains speakers adjust their language based on their audience. We can see that in his former speech, Saddiq used upward convergence. This means he avoided slang and colloquial expressions to maintain professionalism in parliament. For example, he said, "Saya juga merupakan mantan ahli kabinet," and it shows formality and respect. Meanwhile, in his informal speech, he uses downward convergence, where he toned down his language to match the audience. A clear example is when he say adik-adik. It's a familiar and affectionate term used to connect with younger listeners. The second element is speech art theory, which focuses on how language is used to take action. In the formal speech, he used assertive acts, applying authoritative language to strengthen his credibility. For instance, he said, "Ditegur di dalam Suruhanjaya ini," a formal phrase to assert a point confidently. In the informal speech, he gave advice and encouragement, which are directive speech acts, such as when he said, "Tapi cadangan saya tolong buat hybrid learning." We can see this is a clear instruction aimed to encouraging the students. Our analysis also connects to the social cause under ESG, which is this because both speeches highlight social responsibility and human rights. In the former speech, Saddiq demands justice for the people of Muar after the flood disaster, questioning why no federal aid was allocated. In contrast, for the informal speech, he updates the public on the Muar flood relief program, mentioning his personal efforts to raise funds, such as becoming a spokesperson and returning the proceeds to help victims. This shows that his language, whether formal or informal, supports social action and reflects his concern for the welfare of the community. In conclusion, Saddiq's speeches show that language is not just about words, it's also about connection, influence, and purpose. He changes his tone, language style, and even his vocabulary depending on whether he is speaking to government officials or students online. Through this sociolinguistic lens, we can see how language reflects leaderships, audience awareness, and social values. That brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you for watching.